Roll for Crit is made possible thanks to the support of viewers like you and our patrons on our Patreon page.
You can become a patron for just $1 a month at patreon.com/rollforcrit. You're watching a Roll for Crit expansion review for The Other Side, a small expansion for the game Crimson Company, which is a two-player head-to-head card game in which there are a set of characters and players are spending coins on those characters and placing them in different lanes, and whoever has the most strength of all those characters in any given lane will score that castle. And the first player to score 2 of the 3 castles is the winner. Of course, all the characters have their own special, unique abilities that are in play that will allow you to manipulate the field or your opponent's cards in various ways. The Other Side expansion primarily is adding a whole set of new characters, and you can either create your own custom deck of 30 cards, or you can combine everything in the expansion with everything from the original game and see what happens.
Now, this expansion comes with a couple new stuff. Obviously, first, some new characters, such as the horror that pushes everyone away in the lane it's in, because ew. There's also a shapeshifter, which sort of makes tying your opponent a little weird because it swaps the cards out and changes what's available, and it comes to this weird back and forth. As well as, of course, a huge host of other characters. One of the big things are the castles. In the base game, you had 3 basic castles that are just different colors. In this now, they have the ability to have unique properties. For example, a castle may require an extra card in order for it to trigger scoring, or could make it so once it does score, people get to keep some of their characters and move them to another castle. These small changes really add up in terms of your strategy, because you might not be able to win that castle anymore because it adds, like we said, more characters are needed. There's one that actually flips cards around each time you do your gain resources. So you have to think about how you place guys there and like, is it okay for this card to flip? Do I actually want it to flip? Or is there a way I can get maybe multiple characters there because I won during my opponent's turn, so I'll be placing 2 characters that round? It really changes up the simple just, oh, I'm just going to put a guy here to try to win this before you do.
Yeah, the game comes with 2 of those new castle cards. They're both double-sided, so it's up to you which sides you put into play each time. And again, you can mix and match however you'd like between this game and the original. There aren't like any strict rules about what cards you need to include or not include. I think we found that in general, this new set of characters, and by the way, if you're interested in the original game, you can watch our review of that. We'll put a link in the description, but sticking to the expansion for this video. We found that a lot of the new abilities and powers had to do with more stuff where you could flip cards up and down to like reactivate or deactivate their abilities, and also in general just a lot of changing up of the board state, allowing you to swap cards with the other player, move your cards to different lanes, things like that really switched things up in a different way. There, of course, there's some overlap with the characters, I think, from the original game. There's a lot of different powers that they have some things in common, but in general, it seemed to us that this was really about more messing with stuff on the field so that you can't be sure what's going on from round to round.
It was very interesting. There's a lot of like, flip this card, then one on your opponent's side, then swap the 2. And like, you're like, okay, when do I want to do that? And once again, it really becomes interesting of like, it's not simply just, I want the card to destroy your thing or the more power. It's really changing the board state up and how do I move this to my advantage for scoring and whatnot. And I enjoy that because it really does make you think a bit more instead of just what's the good card. Because a card might not be good at that time, but, you know, in certain other circumstances, fantastic. And I think that helps. In particular, then, when you do start new games with this expansion, you could be like, all right, let's use these 30 cards because we want to see what happens in this kind of game style because we maybe don't want anything that destroys. Or maybe we want every card that destroys. So this is going to be just a bloodbath. It allows to really make each game different in how you choose to customize them in that, and as well as those castles.
Yeah, that aspect is definitely a plus because you know, it doesn't add a ton of new, like any real new mechanics. It's just more variety. So that's really good in a game like this. And like you were saying, those kind of head games that you can play where sometimes you'll have an ability that lets you flip a card, and it's a good ability, but you don't really want to use it at that time. So maybe you would rather let your opponent take that character. Or for instance, there was one card that made it so whoever had the most face down cards in a row, in a lane, would win there once it's scored, regardless of their strength. And you had that card, and I had the opportunity, maybe I could have destroyed it, but I actually had some face down cards. So at the time, that was helping me out a little bit. But then later, you might have done something to swap like my face down card with yours, or flip my face down cards back up again and negate that bonus. So yeah, all those little things are a lot of fun, and they'll keep you on your toes, and you can't just be happy with the way things are, because they're going to be constantly moving and changing. I definitely think this works best mixed in with the older ones because of that. I think that if you go too far in the direction of the expansion, for some players it might be a little bit too crazy, and then it'll be too chaotic for you, I think. But if you spice up the original with these and pepper them in there, that's where I think the other side expansion will really shine.
Do you have a favorite card, Jonathan, out of all of them?
Oh, man. A favorite card out of all of them. I mean, I like that one that you mentioned. The Shapeshifter might be the most, for me, my least favorite. Not because I really think it's a bad card. I just hate having to keep track of things like that.
You see, games. Because I love it. It's not, I wouldn't say my favorite, but it's up there. If I had to choose a favorite, I think I'm going to have to go with, I thought the Hypnotist was pretty funny. Also, because how you misread it as the Flipmatist, because he flips two things. I'm like, well, that's what it's called now. It's the Flipmatist.
Yeah, I thought it was a little pun, but no, he's just a regular hypnotist. I enjoyed the Coward.
Right.
The Coward was a good one. That's like a small card, but it can help you maybe take on another player's strengths. And again, those castles that can switch things up and make you decide where you want to place things will have a big effect on it. So the other side for Crimson Company, as an expansion review here at Roll for Crit, we tell you whether we think you should buy it, just try it, or pass altogether. As a Crimson Company potential purchaser in the audience, what would you say, Will? What would you say they do with this expansion?
So unfortunately, we're a little late to this one. I'm gonna be truthful on, and if it was at release, I definitely say buy it. Honestly, just for those castles alone. I think they spice things up a lot and make things very interesting. I do know the new one adds more castles, so maybe to try it, but it's still closer to buy it, because I think if you just have the base, you got to get some of those castles to mix up, because that will definitely really change up gameplay.
Yeah, I think I'm going to say try it as well, because like I said, I think for some people, maybe the things in here will be a little bit too chaotic. Maybe they'll stray a little too far from the strict strategic play that you maybe enjoyed more about the original, although it had its fair share of similar kinds of power-ups. But at the same time, it's such a small, that's one of the great things about this expansion. It's so small, and it'll easily fit in the original box, which was also very small. It's just a simple set of new cards. It doesn't hurt to take it in or out depending on the group you're playing with. So I would say if you are someone who just is a huge fan of Crimson Company and really likes the game a lot, then it's hard. I don't think you're going to really regret it. Even if you end up not loving this expansion, it's not going to hurt your wallet too much. You don't have to worry about shelf space or anything, and you can just take the cards that you really like. Maybe there's only 5 of the new cards you like, but even then, that's not so bad. You can mix them in there if you like.
You can let us know which of the new characters you enjoy playing with if you have the chance to. And of course, if you've had the chance to play other expansions, let us know in those comments down below.
That's right. Until we hear from you again, I'm Jonathan.
I'm Will.
And this was a Roll for Crit review.
Never miss out by liking and subscribing. And you can also check out more on our Patreon.
We do weekly podcasts on Patreon. Don't you want to sign up and hear more of our voices?